The airport hum froze when the gate agent's hand snapped a passport in two. A soft gasp rippled through the line. "She's not on the list!" the agent sneered, waving the torn pages like garbage. Naya's jaw tightened. She didn't shout, didn't plead. Her twin brother Malik, standing behind her, caught the moment on his phone. Calm, focused, recording every flicker of arrogance. "You can't fly without valid documents," the agent said. Smirking. "Then maybe," Malik said quietly. "You shouldn't have destroyed them." Security began moving in. Cameras turned. Somewhere above the PA system, a flight was boarding, and justice was about to. Welcome to Respect Win Stories, a place where powerful tales come alive, and every word carries meaning. I would love to know where you are joining from today. Share it in the comments below. And while you do, sit back, relax, and let your heart open to a story that will move your soul and spark your imagination. Every story here carries a message, because in the end, respect always wins. Let us begin. The twins weren't just passengers, they were proof. For months, Nia and Malik Johnson had been documenting discrimination in global travel. Secret profiles, hidden cameras, data from flights and borders. This gate, this moment, was supposed to be routine evidence. But when the agent ripped their passport, the mission turned personal. Nia's silence wasn't fear, it was calculation. Malik's phone fed footage straight to their encrypted activist channel, already trending before the gate crew realized. What none of them knew was that the twins weren't alone on this flight. Their contact was already on board, and furious. The line at Gate 47 was no longer a line. It was a courtroom without rules. Dozens of travelers craned their necks, phones half raised, uncertain whether to film or flee. The air conditioning hummed over the rising murmur of voices. And in the center of it all stood Nia, hands still at her sides, eyes fixed on the shredded passport lying at her feet. "Miss, step back," said the security officer, a broad-shouldered man who looked more tired than cruel. "We can sort this out." "Sort it out?" Malik's voice sliced through. "He just destroyed government property. That's a felony." The gate agent, badge reading K. Hollins, crossed his arms with the smugness of someone who believed uniforms were shields. "Sir, recording's not permitted here," he said, chin lifted toward Malik's camera. "And I'd advise you both to calm down before I call TSA." Malik's camera never wavered. "Already live, buddy. Thousands watching. Want to say hi?" A flicker of panic crossed Hollins's face before pride swallowed it whole. He turned to Nia, tone dripping with mock patience. "Look, miss, maybe if you didn't act so— So what?" she interrupted softly. The question landed like a trap. Hollins hesitated. His mouth opened, then closed again. "Security!" he barked suddenly, retreating behind the counter. "These two are being aggressive!" The officer sighed, lifting a hand. "Let's all just—" But Nia had already knelt, picking up the torn halves of her passport. She brushed dust from the edges, her movements calm, deliberate, like a ritual for something sacred. Her fingers didn't tremble. Malik zoomed in on her hands, framing the pieces like evidence. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I'm fine," she said. Her eyes weren't on the agent anymore. They were on the boarding gate's surveillance camera. A red light blinked above it, recording everything. "We've got two angles now." Behind them, whispers rippled through the crowd. "Did he really rip it up?" "They said he did it on purpose." "I saw it." She didn't even raise her voice. A woman in a navy suit stepped forward from the VIP line. "Excuse me," she said firmly. "I just watched this happen. That agent needs to be removed." Hollins laughed sharply. "Ma'am, stay out of it. This is an airline matter." The woman raised her phone. "No, it's a human matter." That one sentence shifted the energy. Security hesitated, unsure whom to restrain anymore. Hollins's confidence faltered as more phones lifted, recording every twitch of his face. Nia stood slowly, still holding the broken passport. "You said I'm not on the list," she said. "Run it again." "I don't have to—" "Run it," she repeated, voice steady. The silence that followed was heavier than a shout. Malik caught it all, camera tilting slightly as he whispered, "You're live on every platform. Don't make this worse." Hollins's fingers trembled over his keyboard. The monitor flickered, and his eyes widened. Name, match, Nia Johnson. Status, verified access level, priority boarding. The crowd gasped. Malik leaned in. Priority boarding, huh? Funny how that works. Before Hollins could stammer a response, a voice crackled through the terminal speaker. "Gate 47. This is Supervisor Greer. Is there a problem?" Nia turned toward the ceiling speaker. Yes, she said clearly. Your agent destroyed a passenger's passport, mine. For a heartbeat, only static replied. Then came the calm, clipped voice of authority. Agent Hollins, step away from the counter. Now, the murmur spread like wind. Hollins froze. The officer glanced between them, uncertain whose side he was even on. Malik's livestream numbers were climbing in real time, hearts and angry emojis flooding the corner of his screen. Nia looked at her brother. Upload the clip, she whispered. He nodded, thumb hovering over post. But as the supervisor arrived, a tall woman in grey with a lanyard marked International Liaison, Nia's expression changed. Something in her eyes sharpened. She leaned close to Malik and murmured, That's not her. That's the contact. Malik's breath caught. You're sure? Positive, she said. She's early. He looked from his sister to the approaching woman, realization dawning. This wasn't just about a passport anymore. It was the beginning of something much bigger, and Hollins, arrogant, unknowing, shaking, was about to be the perfect example. Supervisor Greer's heel struck the tiles with the rhythm of a gavel. Every step silenced another whisper. Her grey suit carried the insignia of authority, but her eyes, sharp, assessing, locked on Nia like a coded signal. Agent Hollins, she said evenly. Step aside. Her tone was civil, but beneath it pulsed command. Hollins obeyed halfway, still puffed with anger. Mom, they were being disruptive. Greer cut him off with a single raised palm. I'll determine that. Nia and Malik exchanged the briefest glance. 2 blinks. Their silent language. Contact confirmed. Greer turned to Nia. Ms. Johnson, I apologize for any inconvenience. We'll get you redocumented. Nia nodded, but her voice was controlled steel. He tore my passport because of my skin, not my paperwork. Gasps again. Phones hovered higher. Hollins flushed red, forcing a laugh. That's ridiculous. I follow protocol. Greer's gaze sliced through him. Protocol doesn't include destroying federal identification. You violated Security Procedure 9C. That line wasn't for him. It was for the cameras. The evidence Malik's livestream was feeding to encrypted servers. Malik whispered, Feed secure line. Activate RavenNet. A vibration answered in Nia's pocket. The operation had switched from observation to exposure. Greer leaned closer to Nia, voice dropping just enough. You have 3 minutes before central control patches in. Get what you need. Nia nodded. Understood. She turned, facing the gathering crowd. My name is Nia Johnson. This agent destroyed my passport on record. I want his supervisor and security to witness this file. Malik projected the feed onto a nearby digital advertising screen. The live stream mirrored in 4K clarity. The entire terminal froze as the footage replayed. Hollins ripping, smirking, dismissing. The arrogance was undeniable now. Delete that. Hollins barked, lunging forward, but the officer caught his arm. Enough, sir. You have no right, Hollins shouted, veins rising in his neck. This is defamation! Greer stepped between them. The only one defaming this airline is you. Her badge flashed. Beneath the logo, a smaller emblem glimmered. One few recognized, Office of Civil Travel Compliance. Nia's pulse quickened. Their mission overlapped more deeply than even she knew. Greer turned slightly, murmuring just loud enough for the twins. I'm not here for the airline. I'm here for whoever's funding this discrimination study. You still running the Justice Twin Initiative? Malik's brows lifted. She knew. We never stopped, he said quietly. Hollins tried again to seize the camera, but security now fully blocked him. You can't treat me like this. I've worked here 15 years. Then you should know better, Nia replied, her voice carrying through the terminal's speakers as Malik linked the PA to his feed. Greer looked at her watch. 2 minutes. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore. They were choosing sides. Travelers began filming statements, eyewitness accounts, sending them to Malik's channel. Hashtags multiplied in real time. A reporter from a local news outlet, grounded by weather, approached with a mic. Ms. Johnson, are you pressing charges? Nia hesitated, calculating optics, legality, impact. We're pressing record, she said. The world can decide the verdict. Hollins' supervisor arrived breathless, sweating. Karen, what's going on? Greer turned slowly. Internal investigation effective immediately. Suspend the agent. But we can't. You will. She signed something on a tablet, handed it to him. Malik zoomed in, the digital order already stamped. The gate agent's badge was officially revoked. Hollins's smirk collapsed into disbelief. You can't do this. Greer faced him. You did it to yourself. Yet beneath the public justice, a private signal pulsed. Greer's subtle nod told Nia there was another layer still hidden. Someone higher had orchestrated this provocation, testing the twins' network, baiting them into revealing their system. As security escorted Hollins away, Malik whispered, "This feels too clean." Nia's eyes narrowed toward the mirrored windows overlooking the runway. In the reflection, a suited man in a dark trench coat lowered a phone, watching them. She didn't need words. The next phase had begun. Nia felt the shift before Malik did. The way every security camera in the terminal swiveled 2 degrees left, aligning on them. Someone had taken remote control. "Don't move," she murmured. Greer's earpiece crackled. "Control here. Who authorized the feed reroute?" Static. Then a voice neither of them recognized. "Operation Atlas is compromised." Greer's face blanched. "That's impossible. Atlas was scrubbed years ago." Malik edged closer, phone against his chest. "Atlas?" Nia whispered. "Government pilot program. Tracking activist groups at airports." She'd read the files 3 months earlier. The program was supposed to be dead. Across the concourse, the man in the trench coat turned and started walking toward them. Slow, deliberate. The kind of pace that came from confidence. 2 more men peeled off from the duty-free store behind him, mirroring his stride. Greer whispered, "We have to get you both to Gate B. There's a diplomatic flight wheels up in 8. Malik glanced at his screen, comments flooding in, viewers begging them to run, to keep streaming, to stay safe. "We can't just vanish," he said. "The story dies if we disappear." "The story dies if you do," Greer shot back. They started moving anyway, weaving through stunned travelers. The livestream still rolled from Malik's chest harness, shaking with every step. Hollins's arrest replayed on nearby monitors, a perfect distraction. But Nia kept looking at the reflection in the glass walls, watching the trenchcoat man's pace quicken. "Why were you here early?" she asked Greer. "I wasn't," Greer said. "Someone moved your flight up 2 hours. Somebody wanted you at this gate." The words landed like thunder. The setup wasn't accidental. The ripped passport had been bait, an orchestrated spark to expose their operation. They cut through the VIP lounge corridor, automatic doors hissing open to an empty hallway bathed in sterile white light. Malik whispered, "They're tracking facial IDs. Kill the feed." Nia shook her head. "Not yet." They turned a corner and froze. 2 airport police officers stood ahead, blocking the passage, hands resting on holsters. "Ms. Johnson, Mr. Johnson," one said. "You need to come with us." Greer stepped forward, badge raised. "They're under my jurisdiction." The officer scanned the badge, frowned. "Badge invalidated 5 minutes ago." Greer's blood drained from her face. "They're inside the system," she breathed. The second officer tapped his radio. "Target acquired." Malik's phone buzzed. A message from an encrypted channel. "Ravenet alert. Internal breach. Trust no ID." Nia's pulse thundered. "They're falsifying credentials." "Greer, who's still clean?" "Maybe no one," she said, "except whoever's already on that diplomatic jet." Sirens wailed from the tarmac level. The officers drew weapons, not pointed but ready. Nia raised her hands slowly. "You're making a mistake." "No," the first officer said. "You made it." And then the lights went out. Pitch black swallowed the corridor. Emergency beacons flickered red. A security shutter slammed behind them with metallic finality. Malik grabbed Nia's wrist, guiding her by instinct. "Left!" Greer shouted. Emergency stairs they ran. Bootsteps thundered behind them. Dozens. Nia counted the turns, memorizing exits even as adrenaline blurred time. Somewhere in the chaos, Malik's phone feed switched automatically to night vision mode. Viewers now watching grainy silhouettes dart through flashing crimson. At the bottom of the stairwell, a steel door burst open to the tarmac. Wind howled, engines roared. A sleek diplomatic jet waited, its engines whining to life. Greer pushed them forward. "Go! What about you?" Nia shouted. "Just go!" Gunfire cracked. Sparks off metal echoing like thunder in the hangar's ribs. Malik stumbled, clutching his arm. Blood soaked through his sleeve. Nia dragged him toward the jet, every instinct screaming. The ramp began to rise. She shoved him inside just as the door sealed. Through the porthole, she saw Greer turn, weapon drawn, firing once into the darkness. Then, nothing but silence and the rising howl of takeoff. Nia pressed her forehead to the glass, watching flashing blue lights shrink below. Malik's breath hitched beside her. "We're not safe yet," he muttered. "No," she said quietly, watching the city lights fall away beneath them. But now they know we're real. Outside, a phone screen glowed in the trenchcoat man's hand as he watched the jet climb. He smiled, whispering into his comm. "Phase 2 confirmed. Proceed with containment." The jet sliced through the night, engines humming like restrained fury. Inside the cabin, the dim lights flickered, casting Malik's pale face in shadows. He pressed gauze against his shoulder, wincing. Nia tore open the medkit, her fingers trembling for the first time since the gate. "Hold still." "I'm fine," he muttered. She shot him a look. "You're bleeding on a government aircraft." "You're not fine," he smiled faintly. "At least the Wi-Fi works." He turned his phone toward her, the live stream counter still climbing. 3.2 million viewers. The world had seen the passport ripped, the chase, the escape. Hashtags like Chor Justice Twins and Chor Flight 47 trended worldwide. But beneath the viral triumph, Nia saw something else. Fear. "This isn't going to stop them," she said quietly. "We embarrassed one man. They'll erase him and say the system works." Malik leaned back, wincing as he laughed. "Then we show them the system doesn't." A voice startled them. "You already have." They turned. From the forward cabin, a woman stepped out. Tall, silver hair tied back, wearing a diplomat's insignia. Her calm presence carried more gravity than the roar of the engines. "I'm Ambassador Reeve," she said. "And you two just detonated the largest civil rights scandal the aviation world's ever seen." Greer had mentioned her once, the shadow liaison who moved between agencies, cleaning up the mess no one wanted public. Reeve approached, her gaze landing on Malik's bandaged arm. "You're lucky. They weren't just chasing you. They were testing response latency, seeing how fast they could neutralize a public incident." Nia's stomach turned. "Atlas?" Reeve nodded. "It never died. It evolved. AI-driven passenger profiling. Predicted risk scores based on behavior, language, even pulse patterns from security sensors. And you—" She looked directly at Nia. "Were their control variable." Nia froze. "They knew I'd react." "They wanted you to," Reeve said. "They wanted to trigger a confrontation, record it, and prove their algorithm right." Malik's jaw tightened. "So the entire thing, Hollins, the setup, the flight change, all staged," Reeve finished. "Except the rip. That part wasn't planned." He went rogue. His arrogance ruined their experiment. Silence filled the cabin like smoke. Nia's hands curled into fists. "So our data, our mission, they've been feeding on it this whole time." "Yes," Reeve said. "Your streams, your analysis, even your encryption protocols. They've been mirroring every upload." Malik exhaled slowly. "We've been fighting the machine with the machine's eyes watching." Reeve handed them a small black drive. "This is a backdoor, proof that Atlas exists, and that its command node sits inside a private security contractor called Aerodyne Systems. They've infiltrated airports, airlines, even federal travel logs." Nia stared at the drive like it was radioactive. "If we expose this, you'll dismantle them," Reeve said. "But you'll also paint targets on your backs." Malik took the drive, gripping it tight. "We've already gone viral. There's no hiding now." Reeve smiled, not kindly, but approvingly. "Then let's make it count. You'll have exactly 6 hours before they launch a narrative counterattack. I can get you safe passage to Geneva. After that, you're ghosts." The plane jolted violently. The cabin lights dimmed, oxygen masks swaying from their compartments. "What was that?" Malik shouted. Reeve moved to the cockpit door, pressing her comm. "Control, report, static." Then a calm, male voice. "Ambassador Reeve." This is Aerodyne Operations. You're carrying unauthorized personnel. Please prepare to surrender them. Nia's blood turned cold. They're in the comms. Reeves' expression hardened. They're in everything. Malik reached for his laptop, fingers flying. I can jam them. Maybe spoof location. Do it, Nia said. Buy us time. Reeve turned back, drawing a small pistol from her jacket. Sleek, black, diplomatic issue. They won't risk a missile strike. They'll board us mid-air instead. Nia looked out the window. Far below, through storm clouds, blinking lights approached fast. A formation of drones. The game had changed. Lightning flashed outside the cabin windows, every burst painting the clouds in ghostlight. The diplomatic jet lurched again. Turbulence, or something worse, rattling its frame. Malik's laptop screen flooded with red text. Intrusion detected. Remote override active. He muttered through clenched teeth. They're trying to hijack the flight systems. Nia gripped the seat back for balance. Can you block them? I can lie to them. His fingers danced. If I feed false telemetry, they'll think we're crashing into the Atlantic. Ambassador Reeve braced herself near the cockpit. Pistol steady. Make it convincing. Thunder swallowed her words. The jet banked sharply left, alarms blaring. Through the window, Nia saw 3 matte black drones, each no bigger than a motorcycle, locking into formation like vultures circling meat. Their rotors glowed cobalt in the dark. They're not going for the engines, Reeve shouted. They're scanning passengers. Nia's throat went dry. They're verifying biometrics. She glanced at Malik's screen. Lines of code streaming like rain. He was faking their signatures, rewriting who they were in the eyes of the machine. Reeve's radio crackled again. Ambassador Reeve, power down now or we disable thrust. Do they really think we'll surrender mid-air? Malik hissed. They think fear still works, Nia said quietly. She moved toward the cockpit door, calm amid chaos. Open a channel. Reeve hesitated, then nodded. The cockpit speaker pinged. Nia's voice filled the sky. This is Nia Johnson, citizen and journalist. You're violating international airspace and humanitarian law. Your drones are broadcasting on a civilian frequency. The whole world is listening. Silence. Then a distorted laugh. The world believes what we upload, Ms. Johnson. Nia smiled thinly. Then maybe you should refresh your feed. Malik hit enter. On every drone monitor and every Aerodyne console back on the ground, the livestream reappeared. Real-time footage of their illegal pursuit, rebroadcast through thousands of mirrored servers. The hunter had become the headline. Inside the Aerodyne command room, somewhere far below, technicians cursed and tore out headsets. On the jet, warning lights flickered from red to white. The drones hesitated, caught between conflicting commands. Reeve lowered her weapon slightly. They're glitching. Not enough, Malik said. They still have targeting protocols. The lead drone's cameras flared. A missile hatch clicked open. Dive! Reeve barked. The pilot threw the jet downward, gravity yanking everyone weightless. Malik's laptop slammed into the ceiling. Nia caught it mid-air, spinning back into her seat. An explosion bloomed above, brilliant, soundless in the pressurized cabin. The shockwave rattled teeth. They fired. Malik gasped. They fired at their own feed, Nia realized. They're deleting evidence. Reeve wiped sweat from her temple. They'd rather destroy themselves than lose control. Another blip lit the radar, 2 larger shapes incoming fast. More drones? Malik asked. Reeve's expression shifted from fear to calculation. No, that's not Aerodyne. That's a NATO patrol. They must have intercepted the live stream. Through the window, streaks of light tore the clouds apart. Fighter escorts. The tables had turned again. The NATO pilot's voice thundered through the intercom. Diplomatic Flight 717. Maintain altitude. We have visual on hostile UAVs. Missiles streaked past, vapor trails slicing the darkness. One drone vanished in flame. Another spiraled into the sea. Malik exhaled shakily. I guess the world was listening. Reeve holstered her weapon, giving Nia a look of measured respect. You just forced 3 governments to admit this program exists. Nia didn't answer. She was staring at the final drone retreating into the storm, broadcasting one last encrypted message. Malik caught the signal too, decoding fragments on screen. Primary asset compromised. Initiate fallback. Target Malik Johnson. His face drained of color. They want me now. The plane leveled off, engines steady once more. But in that fragile calm, everyone understood. The exposure had saved them publicly, yet marked them privately for elimination. Reeve touched the intercom. Set course for Geneva. Nia turned to Malik, her eyes fierce. Let them come. Next time we choose the battleground. Outside, dawn broke over the horizon, cold, brilliant, inevitable. Geneva shimmered below like polished glass as Flight 7117 descended through the dawn haze. Mountains caught the first light, white peaks, burning gold. For the first time in 12 hours, the cabin was quiet, but no one relaxed. Ambassador Reeve briefed them in clipped tones. We're landing on a private strip owned by the International Civil Rights Tribunal. Diplomatic immunity covers the aircraft, not you. Once you step off, anything can happen. Malik flexed his wounded arm. So, basically, we're walking targets. Correction, Reeve said. You're walking proof. The jet touched down, smooth as silk. A convoy waited, black cars, tinted glass, flags flapping. At the head stood a woman in ivory, her posture statuesque. Nia recognized her instantly from dossiers. Eleanor Marceau, Aerodyne's CEO. Why is she here? Malik whispered. Reeve's voice was cold. Because she asked for you. Security doors hissed open. As Nia stepped onto the tarmac, camera shutters exploded in a frenzy. Reporters, drones, satellite vans. The live stream had brought the world to their doorstep. Marceau approached with the calm of a queen addressing pawns. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, you've caused quite a spectacle. I thought activists preferred the shadows. Nia's voice was steady. We go where the truth hides. Marceau smiled faintly. And yet here you are, using our networks, our satellites, our encryption. Everything you've built runs on Aerodyne infrastructure. You've been speaking through my microphones all along. For the first time, Malik's confidence faltered. You're lying. Marceau tapped a sleek tablet. Screens behind her flared to life. Footage from the twins' own cameras, dated months before, tagged property of Aerodyne Systems. You didn't expose us, she said softly. We created you. Atlas needed credibility. You provided it. Nia's breath caught. You engineered our movement? Marceau nodded. Manufactured outrage is the best data generator. Every protest, every clip, every leak. Our algorithm learned from it. Silence crushed the runway. Reporters murmured. Reeve's hand moved toward her weapon, but Nia stopped her with a look. Calm, composed, calculating. So that's your mistake, Nia said. Marceau blinked. Excuse me. Nia turned to Malik. Upload protocol eclipse. He hesitated, then smiled, the first genuine smile since the gate. Gladly. Within seconds, the news drones overhead flickered. The Aerodyne logos on their feeds scrambled, replaced by bold text. Data ownership transfer initiated. Marceau's tablet glitched. What did you... Nia's tone was quiet authority. You mirrored us. We mirrored you. Every server that copied our footage carried a seed code. Right now, Eclipse is replicating your internal databases across global humanitarian servers. Atlas isn't yours anymore. It's everyone's. The CEO's mask cracked. Panic flickered through her composure. Reeve stepped closer, smiling grimly. Congratulations, Ms. Marceau. You just open-sourced your conspiracy. Camera drones zoomed in as Marceau's security detail whispered frantically into earpieces. A convoy engine revved, then died, jammed by Malik's remote signal. Nia looked straight into the nearest lens. This began at one gate with one act of arrogance. It ends here, with accountability. Reporters shouted questions. The world's networks lit up. What Atlas exposed trended within seconds. Marceau turned, trying to retreat to her car, but airport police moved first. Swiss authorities swarmed, guided by Reeves' diplomatic orders. The once untouchable Titan was escorted toward the terminal, her confidence dissolving under 1,000 flashing lights. Nia reached for Malik's hand, squeezing gently. "We're not ghosts anymore," she said. "No," he replied. "We're history." Above them, the sun climbed free of the Alps, sharp, golden, unblinking. The Geneva press hall trembled with noise. Cameras hummed, shutters cracked like rain. The world had converged on a single sentence. Atlas exposed. Rows of officials filled the tribunal chamber. Delegates from 23 countries, each demanding answers. On the front bench sat Nia and Malik Johnson, no longer fugitives, but witnesses under protection. Between them rested the recovered drive, its metallic shell still scarred from the flight. Ambassador Reeve, now leading the inquiry, addressed the assembly. "Atlas was marketed as a passenger safety algorithm," she said, her voice echoing through marble arches. In reality, it profiled citizens by race, faith, and nationality, eroding human rights under the guise of security. "Thanks to these two citizens, the world now knows." Applause thundered, uneven but real. Nia kept her hands folded, expression controlled. Malik's fingers tapped nervously against the table, a rhythm she recognized, the beat of disbelief. Reporters swarmed the aisles. One called out, "Ms. Johnson, did you expect to survive Geneva?" Nia met the question head-on. "We didn't expect to survive anything. We expected to be seen." Behind her, a giant monitor replayed the gate agent clip. The exact moment Hollins tore the passport. It looped silently, a symbol burned into public conscience. Hollins himself appeared next, now in a grey jumpsuit, escorted by police to testify remotely. His eyes were hollow, his arrogance long gone. Malik leaned toward Nia. "He looks smaller than the hallway we left him in." "Arrogance always shrinks in daylight," she murmured. When Hollins was asked why he'd done it, his voice cracked. "I thought I was following orders." Reeves' reply was ice. That excuse retired with history's worst chapters. The tribunal proceeded with precision. Evidence scrolled across screens, internal emails, heat map analytics, secret funding chains linking Aerodyne to multiple governments. Every revelation drew gasps and flashes. Yet amid the spectacle, Nia watched something quieter. Airport workers, flight crews, passengers of every colour filling public squares outside the building, holding replicas of torn passports above their heads in silent protest. The world wasn't just watching, it was answering. By afternoon, the ruling came swift and unanimous. Aerodyne Systems disbanded. Operation Atlas terminated under international sanction. Kay Hollins convicted of racial misconduct and evidence destruction. Global Passenger Rights Accord enacted immediately. Malik whispered, "We actually changed policy." Nia exhaled, almost a laugh. "Policy's the easy part. Hearts take longer." Reeve approached their table, her stern composure softened. "You both understand what comes next? Protection?" Malik guessed. "Visibility," Reeve corrected. "They'll build statues or smear campaigns, possibly both." "Stay grounded." She handed them 2 brand new passports, dark blue, embossed with a gold seal that wasn't from any single nation. "Issued by the tribunal," she said, "for citizens who no longer belong to borders." Nia turned the booklet in her hand. Inside, beneath her name, a single line read, verified human, equal by law. It was poetic, bureaucratic, and revolutionary all at once. Outside, the bells of Geneva tolled. From the steps of the tribunal, the twins faced a crowd chanting their names, not like celebrities, but like symbols reclaimed. Malik lifted his camera one last time, turning it toward them instead of himself. "History," he whispered, recording back. And for the first time since Gate 47, Nia smiled without restraint. For 2 days, Geneva didn't sleep. Every news channel ran the tribunal footage on a loop. Every social feed pulsed with fragments of the twin story, photos of the gate, the torn passport, the jet escape through lightning. The hashtags had long since become movements. At dawn on the third morning, Nia stood at the window of the tribunal residence. Below, crowds lined the quay, candles flickering against the lake. Somewhere in that sea of faces, she saw her own reflected 1,000 times. Different skin, different scars, same defiance. Malik entered quietly, arms still bound in fresh gauze. "They just sentenced Hollins," he said. She didn't turn. "How long?" 5 years. 2 mandatory under public service. He'll be working at the refugee transit hub he once called security risk. Nia breathed out, neither gloating nor forgiving. "That's justice enough." He set his tablet on the table. The feed showed Aerodyne's headquarters in Washington being emptied. Boxes, hard drives, executives escorted by marshals. Reporters swarmed the steps shouting for comment, but no one from the company would speak. "Reeves says governments are cutting contracts faster than Aerodyne can shred paper," Malik said. "They're losing billions by the hour." Nia watched, cranes lowering the corporate logo from the building facade, its metal letters gleaming briefly before being swallowed by trucks. "Billions won't fill the silence of those they profiled," she murmured. He nodded. "But maybe the silence is what scares them most." Later that afternoon, they walked with Reeve through the tribunal garden. The air smelled of pine and rain. Reeve's usual brisk step had slowed. "Public sentiment is swinging. Some call you heroes. Others call you destabilizers. Both labels will fade. What matters is that law just moved forward a century." Malik smirked. "That's all? Just a century?" She gave him a rare smile. "For humanity, that's a sprint." They passed a fountain carved with a globe cracked in 2. Water spilled between the continents like veins reconnecting. Nia traced the stone with her fingers. "People keep asking if we'll lead another campaign. I don't know if I can." "Maybe you don't have to," Reeve said. "Movements aren't owned, they're inherited." Back inside, an aide hurried over, breathless. "Ms. Johnson, we've received over 300 requests for interviews. The UN wants a briefing. Schools in 40 countries are adding the Gate case to civic curriculums." Malik whistled softly. "We wanted awareness. We got immortality." Nia smiled faintly. "Let's hope it's the useful kind." That evening, they watched Hollins's public apology stream live from his sentencing. He stood behind a plexiglass barrier, voice shaking. "To the Johnsons, and to anyone I ever made feel lesser, I was wrong. I believed rules were shields. I see now, they were mirrors." The feed cut to commercial, but the silence afterward felt like closure. Malik shut the tablet. "You think he meant it?" "Maybe. Or maybe the world finally learned how to look back at itself." A knock interrupted them. Reeve entered carrying 2 envelopes sealed with wax. "Official confirmation," she said. "You've been cleared of all remaining charges. And there's an offer. Training roles within the International Civil Rights Directorate. You'd help monitor digital ethics in global travel systems." Nia met Malik's eyes. "From fugitives to regulators," she said softly. He grinned. "I've had worse promotions. They accepted without ceremony. Outside, fireworks bloomed above the lake, colour upon colour, light reflected in the water until the whole city shimmered like a new constellation. Nia closed her eyes, letting the echoes roll through the glass. "Do you hear that?" Malik nodded, freedom learning its voice again. By the time autumn swept over Geneva, the world had adjusted to its new vocabulary. Algorithmic discrimination, Atlas reforms, Johnson clause. The tribunal's marble steps, once crowded with cameras, now belonged to pigeons and protest art, murals of two, silhouettes holding a single torn passport stitched together by light. Nia and Malik rented a small apartment overlooking the Rhone. They kept the blinds open. After years of secrecy, sunlight felt like proof of survival. Each morning they split duties. Nia drafted ethical oversight proposals with Reeves' directorate. Malik lectured at the university's journalism lab, teaching how to trace bias in machine learning. Neither of them called it activism anymore. It was maintenance, quiet, constant, necessary. One afternoon, as Nia sorted through reports, a courier arrived carrying a small parcel with no return label. Inside lay a fragment of a passport, hers. The edges were clean, laminated, preserved like an artifact. Beneath it, a note in careful handwriting, found during evidence recovery. "Thought you'd want it returned. Kay Hollins." She stared at it for a long time before placing it in a frame beside the window. Not forgiveness, not bitterness, simply history acknowledged. When Malik came home, he noticed it immediately. "Closure?" he asked. "Reminder," she said. That paper started a revolution. That night they walked down to the lakeside where a public vigil had begun. Citizens reading names of people once denied travel for who they were. Lanterns floated on the water, each carrying a printed line from the new Equal Passage Act. A young girl recognized them and hesitated before speaking. "Are you really the twins from Flight 47? Malik smiled gently. "Depends who's asking. My mom says you changed airports." Nia knelt, meeting the girl's eyes. "No," she said softly. "People did. We just held up a mirror." The child handed her a lantern. "Then you get to light the last one." Nia took it, heart tightening, as the small flame flickered against the night breeze. She set it adrift. It joined hundreds, drifting toward the far shore until the lake looked like a sky turned upside down. Back at the apartment, they watched coverage of the vigil on a muted screen. Captions scrolled, "Former Aerodyne executives convicted. First International Data Ethics Charter ratified." Reeve appeared briefly, delivering a closing statement to the assembly. "Justice is not a verdict. It's a process we must keep alive." Nia poured tea and passed Malik a cup. "Do you ever miss anonymity?" she asked. He shrugged. "Sometimes. But anonymity never changed anything. Truth did." She smiled. "Then maybe we finally get to live in it." Outside, church bells struck midnight. Across the river, the old Aerodyne Tower had been converted into the Center for Transparent Technology, its glass facade glowing with the words, "Data belongs to the people." Nia watched the reflection dance on the water and whispered, "Full circle." Malik raised his cup in a small toast. "To circles broken." They sat in comfortable silence, the hum of the city carrying faint laughter and the distant echo of a guitar from the quay. For the first time since Gate 47, there was no chase, no code, no fear, only the steady rhythm of a world that had finally looked inward and chosen to change. Winter arrived early that year. Snow feathered the rooftops of Geneva, softening the sharp edges of the city that had witnessed so much fury. Inside their apartment, warmth hummed from a small radiator, and the smell of cinnamon tea floated between the rooms. For the first time in months, there were no alerts, no court summons, no encrypted pings at midnight. Silence was their new revolution. Nia sat at the kitchen table, sketching flight paths on scraps of paper. Not escape routes, dreams, lines that went wherever they chose. "Funny," she murmured, "how peace feels like planning without fear." Malik looked up from the couch where he was editing a film reel. Peace feels like bad Wi-Fi, he said. Quiet, unreliable, but worth keeping. They laughed, a sound unburdened. The footage on his screen flickered. Images from their tribunal days, the protests, the night of the vigil. He paused on a frame of Nia holding the lantern. You looked like you were lighting the whole planet, she blushed. I was just trying not to cry. Outside, snow kept falling, burying footprints before anyone could follow them. The world had moved on to new headlines, some hopeful, some grim, but the story of the twins still lived in classrooms, documentaries, art murals. Invitations arrived weekly, panels, interviews, think tanks. Nia accepted few. Every voice doesn't need a stage, she said. Sometimes it just needs an ear. One evening she joined a small local group that mentored displaced travelers. They called themselves Open Gate. Nia taught them how to document injustice without turning it into spectacle. Record the truth, she told them, but remember to record the joy too. Malik found healing differently. He spent hours filming street musicians by the lake, weaving their songs into a documentary about resilience. He titled it Airborne Hearts. When the first rough cut played at the community cinema, the audience stood and clapped through the credits. A reporter asked him afterward what message he wanted viewers to take home. Malik answered, "That flight isn't just metal and sky. It's believing you're allowed to arrive." At home, Nia watched the applause on a live stream, tears sliding down her cheek unnoticed. She realized how far they had both traveled since Gate 47, how each step toward justice had cost a little piece of innocence but returned something stronger, meaning. Later that night, Malik joined her on the balcony. The lake glowed under a silver moon. "Do you ever wonder," he said, "if Mom would have believed all this?" Nia smiled softly. "She would have asked if we packed lunch first." They both laughed through the ache. The church bells marked midnight. In the distance, planes rose and landed like slow-moving stars. Nia traced one with her finger. "You know what I miss?" she asked. "The sound of boarding announcements. People coming and going, not thinking about who gets questioned and who doesn't. Maybe someday that sound will mean freedom again," Malik said. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "It already does." They stood there a long time, letting the cold sting their faces, watching the sky reopen itself. Down below, someone played a saxophone near the river. Its notes curled upward, tender and unafraid. For once, the twins didn't record it. They simply listened. Spring crept into the city almost unnoticed. The snow melted into silver threads that ran between cobblestones, and the Rhone turned bright and restless again. With the thaw came colour, flags, art, children's laughter in the plazas where speeches had once echoed. Geneva was breathing differently now. Nia felt it each morning when she stepped outside. Strangers greeted her not with awe but with warmth. Sometimes they simply nodded, a silent thank you carried in the gesture. It was enough. At the community centre, Open Gate had grown beyond anyone's expectation. What started as 10 volunteers now filled 2 floors of an old post office. They helped travellers reclaim lost papers, offered translators, taught digital self-defense. The front wall carried a mural of a passport opening into a sunrise. Beneath it was painted her favourite quote from the tribunal days. "Dignity is a document no one can tear." One afternoon, a group of teenagers arrived from Nairobi, young activists learning to document discrimination. Nia led them through the workspace, showing cameras, data backups, the encryption hub. A girl with braids asked shyly, "How did you stay calm when they tore your passport?" Nia smiled. "Calm isn't the opposite of anger," she said. "It's how anger remembers what it's fighting for." The girl wrote it down like scripture. That evening Malik joined her, lugging boxes of recording gear. He had just returned from filming in Lisbon, where airports were now testing transparent checkpoints, systems co-designed by engineers who had studied the Atlas case. "They're calling it the Johnson Protocol," he said with mock pride. Nia laughed. "We're becoming software." Better than becoming a headline again. He looked around the buzzing center. This is the real aftermath. People fixing what power broke. Later they shared dinner at a small lakeside cafe that still felt too fancy for their habits. A band played soft jazz. Malik raised his glass of mint tea. To everyone who thought silence was safety, he said, and to those who spoke anyway. To everyone still speaking, Nia added. They clinked glasses. A man approached their table, a former airline worker from Gate 47. You don't know me, he began nervously, but I was there that day. I didn't say anything. I should have. Nia touched his arm gently. You're saying something now? He smiled, eyes wet, and walked away lighter. Malik watched him go. Sometimes redemption just needs permission, he murmured. When night settled, the twins strolled along the quay. Lanterns bobbed on the river again, this time celebrating the anniversary of the Equal Passage Act. Crowds chanted softly, not in anger, but in memory. Malik stopped by a railing, looking at his reflection rippling beside hers. Remember when we thought exposing Atlas was the end? It was only the beginning, she said. Justice isn't a door, it's maintenance. He laughed. You sound like Reeve. Maybe she infected me with her realism. They fell silent, listening to the rhythmic sound of water against stone. Somewhere a child's kite tangled briefly in the wind, then broke free, rising higher than seemed possible. The next morning, Nia received a letter on tribunal stationery. Inside was a single sentence from Reeve. When systems forget their humanity, remind them who built them. Attached was a photo of Reeve standing before a new international task force. At the bottom, handwritten, ready when you are. Nia pinned it above her desk, beside the framed passport fragment. She sat back, watching sunlight spread across the paper, and realized she wasn't afraid of borders anymore. She was building new ones, boundaries that kept compassion from being overwritten. Summer arrived soft and green. The river ran clear again, and every evening Geneva's bridges filled with street musicians whose songs drifted between the cafes. Nia and Malik lived simply. 2 rooms, overflowing bookshelves, a view of plains that crossed the dusk like silver birds unafraid. They rarely spoke of Atlas now. The story belonged to history books, not to them. But sometimes, when the evening light slanted through the window, Nia would glance at the framed passport fragment and remember how fragile a life could look before it was believed. Malik had begun teaching full-time. His students built projects on fairness in design. Their homework assignments were miniature acts of justice. You don't fix bias, he told them. You teach systems to see. He kept a copy of his sister's sketch, those looping flight paths, pinned above his desk. Nia's work with Open Gate had become global. Her calm authority traveled through video calls to border camps, embassies, remote classrooms. People who had never met her spoke her name like a password for courage. Yet she stayed grounded. Coffee with neighbors, morning runs by the lake, long calls with Malik's students who wanted advice. One night, the twins received an invitation, the first anniversary gala of the Equal Passage Act. Formal attire, Malik read, wrinkling his nose. Does dignity require a tie? Apparently, Nia laughed. Come on, it's closure. The ballroom shimmered with glass and light. Delegates from dozens of countries applauded as Reeve took the stage, older now but still radiating command. A year ago, she said, 2 ordinary citizens reminded us that humanity must be coded into every decision. Tonight we honor that reminder, she gestured toward the twins. Cameras flashed. Nia felt the warmth of Malik's hand steadying hers. They stepped forward together. No speeches, just a simple bow. The applause rose like ocean surf, washing through marble halls, through every memory of fear. Afterward, Reeve found them near the balcony. You stayed whole, she said quietly. Most people break under victory. Nia smiled. We had each other, Reeve raised her glass. Then keep each other. The world forgets fast. Outside, fireworks burst above the lake, scattering colour over the water. The sound echoed faintly against the mountains, and for a moment Nia thought she could hear the saxophonist from that winter night, the same soft melody woven into the explosions. Malik leaned on the railing. "Do you think peace ever lasts?" "It has to," she answered, "even if only between heartbeats." They watched the reflections shimmer across the water, red, gold, violet. In every flare, they saw faces of strangers who had stood up, spoken out, changed something small that became something vast. When the last spark faded, Malik pulled a small notebook from his pocket. "What's that?" Nia asked. "New project," he said. "Stories of people who crossed invisible borders. I want the first chapter to be you." She laughed softly. "Then promise to write it as if we're still moving." "Always," he said. Weeks later, life returned to its gentle rhythm. The world continued to argue, rebuild, hope. One afternoon, while Nia was mentoring a young refugee family, a little boy tugged her sleeve. "Miss," he asked, "what happened after the gate?" She knelt so their eyes met. "We walked through," she said, "and the world followed." That night, she wrote the line on a scrap of paper and slipped it into the frame beside the passport fragment. The wind through the open window rustled it softly, like pages turning. Outside, the airport lights blinked against the dark horizon. Planes lifted and landed in steady rhythm, carrying voices, dreams, and passports that no one dared tear again. For Nia and Malik, every sound of departure was not an ending but a heartbeat, proof that flight, once stolen, had been returned. And somewhere between sky and earth, justice kept breathing,